You're going to cross into 2026 whether you're ready or not. That part isn't optional. What is optional is how stable you feel when you get there. Right now, a lot of people are moving fast. Busy weeks, full calendars, constant adjustment. From the outside, it looks like progress. From the inside, it feels brittle. Things work until they don't. One disruption and everything backs up at once. You've probably noticed this pattern already. You put in effort, but the results don't hold. You fix one area of life and another quietly degrades. You make plans, then spend most of your time reacting to problems those plans were supposed to prevent. What's uncomfortable isn't the workload, it's the lack of ground under it, a sense that you're maintaining momentum without building anything that can carry more weight, that no matter how disciplined you are, you're one unexpected change away from starting over. As the calendar turns, this gap becomes more expensive. Decisions stack, commitments harden, time horizons shorten. What used to be flexible becomes fixed whether you chose it or not. Most people respond to this by pushing harder, more goals, more tracking, more pressure. It feels logical. It's also why the instability keeps showing up in new forms. This video isn't about getting more motivated for 2026. It's about whether your life can actually support where you're heading, because effort without underlying stability doesn't compound, it just circulates. If you enter the next year without the right underlying structure, you won't fail loudly. You'll stay busy, slightly behind, permanently exposed, and by the time that becomes obvious, the cost of fixing it is much higher. Most people think preparing for the future means choosing better goals, higher standards, more precise plans. The assumption is simple: if the direction is right, the rest will follow. That assumption is wrong. Modern culture rewards visible intention, not structural readiness. You're encouraged to declare what you're going after, optimize your routine, and measure outputs. None of that asks whether your life can actually sustain the direction you've chosen. This is why goal chasing replaces foundation building. Goals are legible, they signal ambition. Foundations are quiet. They don't announce themselves. They simply determine what breaks under pressure. Habits are often treated as the solution. Build the right ones and everything improves, but habits don't operate in isolation. They depend on the conditions around them. When those conditions are unstable, habits become fragile. They work when life is calm and disappear when it isn't. Motivation follows the same pattern. It's effective in short bursts and unreliable under load. People interpret this as a personal flaw instead of a structural issue, so they try to become more consistent rather than making consistency easier to maintain. The deeper misunderstanding is timing. Foundations are treated as something you add later, once momentum is established. In reality, they are what make momentum usable. Without them, progress increases complexity faster than capacity. This is why people feel busy but not settled, capable but stretched, improving yet oddly stuck. They're operating on top of systems they never chose and don't fully control. Foundations aren't upgrades, they're prerequisites. They don't make life impressive, they make it stable enough to grow without constant repair. What follows are 7 foundations, not habits, not strategies, not advice. Each one governs a specific system-level domain that determines how pressure moves through your life. Together, they form a closed structure. The order matters because each foundation reduces strain on the next. Remove one, and pressure is redirected elsewhere until something fails. The first foundation is energy regulation. This governs baseline capacity, not motivation, usable energy. Without regulation, execution becomes conditional. Plans depend on how you feel rather than what's required. This foundation exists to stabilize capacity so effort remains available under fluctuating conditions. The second foundation is time control. This governs allocation before urgency enters. Without it, priorities exist only in theory and are overridden by immediate demands. This foundation exists to establish ownership over time, so decisions aren't made reactively in the moment. The third foundation is attention direction. This governs cognitive focus within available time. Without it, attention fragments and effort dissipates across competing inputs. This foundation exists to limit cognitive leakage, so time is used deliberately rather than consumed passively. The fourth foundation is environmental alignment. This governs default behavior through surroundings. Without alignment, intention and environment conflict, and intention loses. This foundation exists to ensure that physical and digital spaces reinforce desired behavior instead of resisting it. The fifth foundation is constraint-based decision architecture. This governs how choices are limited before emotion enters. Without constraints, decisions are made case by case, increasing fatigue and inconsistency. This foundation exists to reduce decision load by replacing judgment calls with predefined rules. The sixth foundation is feedback clarity. This governs how information about performance is received and interpreted. Without clarity, systems drift or overcorrect. This foundation exists to ensure that adjustment happens early and proportionally, rather than reactively. The seventh foundation is identity coherence. This governs alignment between self-concept and operating behavior. Without coherence, actions require internal negotiation. This foundation exists to eliminate conflict between how you act and how you see yourself. These foundations do not function independently. Energy enables execution, time protects priority, attention preserves depth, environment enforces defaults, constraints simplify decisions, feedback guides correction, identity stabilizes the entire system. None of these tell you what to do. They determine whether what you choose to do can hold under pressure. Entering the next year without these foundations doesn't stop movement, it guarantees unnecessary strain. When these foundations are in place, behavior changes without negotiation, not because you try harder, but because fewer decisions are left open. You stop asking whether you have the energy to act. Capacity is assumed. You stop rearranging your schedule to fit what matters. Time is already owned. You stop fighting distraction in the moment. Attention is pre-directed before the day begins. Your environment no longer needs constant management. It supports the baseline you've set. The number of choices you make shrinks, even as responsibility increases. Constraints do that quietly. They remove options you no longer need to consider. Feedback changes how you respond to outcomes. You don't overcorrect when something goes wrong, and you don't overextend when something goes right. Signals are interpreted through a stable filter, not emotion or urgency. The largest shift is internal. You stop debating who you are in the middle of action. Identity is no longer something you perform when conditions are ideal. It's expressed through systems that are already running. This is where the feeling of trying to improve disappears. There's less self-talk, less justification, less recovery after lapses. Behavior becomes a function of setup, not mood. Nothing about this feels dramatic. That's the point. Stability rarely announces itself, but once it's present, the friction you used to mistake for personal weakness stops showing up. You're not managing yourself. You're operating within a structure that holds. When you look at these 7 foundations together, they don't feel like separate improvements. They operate as a single system. Each one quietly supports the others, and none of them matter in isolation. Daily life changes in small, structural ways. Your days stop requiring constant correction. The same decisions don't resurface in new forms. You're not bracing for disruption because the system absorbs it. By the time 2026 arrives, the difference won't show up as a breakthrough moment. It will show up as continuity. You'll be doing similar things, but with less friction and fewer trade-offs. This is why the year itself isn't the target. Outcomes are downstream. What determines them is whether your life can carry sustained direction without constant repair. Entering the next year built means you're not relying on discipline to hold everything together. You're not hoping circumstances cooperate. The structure is already doing the work. That's the standard. Not ambition, not intensity. Stability first. Growth follows as a consequence, not a demand.